Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unlocking the foundational playbook for the incredibly complex game of modern finance. Money dictates so much of our lives, yet we rarely take a step back to understand the hidden mechanics driving it all. Well, today, we're changing that. So why can a dollar bill buy you a coffee, but a random stick from your yard can't? It sounds silly, right? But it actually reveals money's absolute biggest secret. It's not actually real in a physical sense. Think about it. There is no biological difference in legitimacy between a paper dollar and a twig. Money is entirely a social construct. It's built 100% on our shared belief and trust that it holds value. We as a society have simply agreed to play along. To win this game, we're going to navigate through 6 key stages today: the illusion of money, the cost of civilization, double-edged swords, invisible economic threats, the ultimate wealth cheat code, and finally, your most valuable asset. Let's get into it. Section 1. The illusion of money and where value comes from. Let's lay the groundwork here and figure out exactly where money comes from, how it's maintained, and why we even care about it in the first place. Since currency relies entirely on belief, we got to look at the mechanics holding that belief together. You and I trade cash for goods, and the government prints it, sure. But central banks, they have to step in and regulate the supply. Because if the government just printed endless amounts of cash, inflation would run totally wild, and your hard-earned money would essentially turn into worthless monopoly money. Without regulation, the trust vanishes, and bam, the whole system collapses. And this perfectly illustrates the concept of perceived value. Think about a shiny yellow rock, gold, versus just an average gray rock sitting in your driveway. Gold isn't inherently more useful for surviving in the wild than a regular rock, but it's rare, and human beings have collectively decided to place a high value on it. It's the exact same reason Steve Jobs could charge thousands of dollars for an iPhone, and why Gucci can sell a handbag for 100 times the price of a bag from Target. Value isn't always something you can touch. It's heavily driven by perception. Moving on to Section 2, the cost of civilization, or the cost of entry. Before you can build an empire, we have to understand the mandatory fees and daily mechanics for playing the game of modern society. Look, I know taxes can absolutely sting when you check your pay stub, but these are basically the subscription fees for civilization. Income tax takes a cut of what you make, sales tax hits what you buy, and capital gains tax, that hits the money your investments make while you're sleeping. But this cash funds the roads you drive on, schools, and yes, even billion-dollar missiles. Meanwhile, Social Security is essentially a forced retirement plan so you don't end up with nothing later on. And Medicare steps in as a health insurance tax to support older folks and people with serious health issues. Okay, so you pay your taxes and stash the rest of your cash in the bank. But here's the thing. Your bank is not a giant Scrooge McDuck vault just guarding your physical money. When you deposit $1,000, the bank acts like a matchmaking middleman through what's called fractional reserve banking. They keep a tiny fraction of your cash on hand and immediately take, say, $900 of it to lend to someone else who desperately wants to buy a jet ski. And they make their profit by charging that jet ski guy a higher interest rate than they pay you. Now, knowing your money is out there buying someone a jet ski might make you a little sweaty. But here is your ultimate peace of mind number, $250,000. Do not panic about them lending your cash out, because in the US, the government actually assures you that your money is safe and insured up to $250,000 per person. So yeah, keeping it in the bank is definitely exponentially safer than stuffing it in a shoebox under your bed. Section 3. Double-edged swords and financial tools. Welcome to the territory of tools that can either aggressively build your financial empire or completely tear it down. Here's the absolute crucial takeaway. Interest is simply money's way of charging rent to exist in someone else's hands. When you borrow money for that shiny new car, interest is the heavy price tag you pay for using someone else's cash right now. But on the flip side, if you're the one lending or saving, interest is your reward for being patient and just leaving your money alone. You really got to understand the 2 main types of interest if you want to win this game. Simple interest is just a flat fee. It's fine. But compound interest? Oh man, that is money with clones. It's the silent engine that duplicates your wealth like a literal cheat code if you're investing. But watch out. If you're holding a 20% interest rate on a credit card, compound interest is the exact beast that turns a missed $12 burrito payment into a $50 regret as your interest literally starts earning its own interest against you. And speaking of credit cards, lenders need to know if they can actually trust you before handing over their cash. And they measure that trustworthiness through a somewhat shadowy 3-digit algorithm called a credit score. It's built on 5 key behaviors. The absolute biggest one? Payment history. Paying your bills on time is literally everything. But they also look at how much of your available credit you're using, how long your accounts have been open, the variety of your loans, and whether you're out there desperately applying for new credit all at once. And 580, that is the danger zone. If your score drops below that number, you become a walking red flag to lenders, which means you'll get hit with soul-crushing interest rates. Think of your credit score kind of like a pet dog. If you ignore it, it poops all over your life and ruins your chances of getting a loan. But if you take care of it and feed it with on-time payments, someday it happily helps you buy a house. All right, Section 4, Invisible Threats, the macro-level boss battles. These are the economic realities that absolutely everyone must face, no matter how perfectly you play your own personal finance game. Ever grab a bag of chips and realize it's half empty and somehow costs 30% more than it did last year? Yep, that is inflation in action. It's the slow, sneaky erosion of your purchasing power. Your $5 bill still technically says $5 on it, but because too many people are chasing limited goods or supply chains are struggling, that exact same $5 suddenly buys you way fewer instant noodles and a lot less gas. Now, 2% inflation is totally normal, even healthy and predictable. But what happens when it spikes and everyone's savings start to literally melt away? When expectations shift and prices go completely through the roof, the government steps in to fight back by raising interest rates. They intentionally make borrowing more expensive so people have less cash to blow on things like new TVs. This drop in spending is what cools off an overheated economy. But that cooling off period can trigger a recession. Think of the economic cycle like a massive party. In the boom phase, everyone's dancing, drinks are flowing, and credit is super easy to get. But inevitably, you hit the bust phase. The lights flicker, reality hits, and suddenly you're listening to sad lo-fi beats while reading about corporate downsizing. A recession is just a painful economic reset that lasts at least 6 months. Jobs vanish, companies cut costs. It's rough, for sure. But remember, they aren't forever. Eventually, the spending returns and growth kicks back in. So now we know the threats. Section 5, the ultimate wealth cheat code. Let's talk about how we actually fight inflation and win this game before our money loses its value. You fight back by investing across different asset classes. To stop inflation from quietly pickpocketing your future, you have to trade your money for more money. You can buy stocks, which are just tiny ownership slices of real companies. You can buy bonds, which are basically loans you give to governments or companies that they pay back with interest. You can buy funds, which bundle those stocks and bonds together so you don't have to stress about picking them individually. Or you can invest in real estate. Look, investing definitely involves a little risk, but the actual biggest risk, never investing at all and just watching inflation eat your hard-earned savings. Finally, Section 6, your most valuable asset, the ultimate secret. We've arrived at the absolute most powerful force in wealth building. And the best part? Almost everyone starts out with a ton of it. The ultimate secret to this whole game is right here. Wealth isn't built in days. It is built in decades. Your most valuable asset isn't some super secret hot stock pick. It's time. The top earners haven't beaten the system with magic tricks. They've just figured out how to use the system by giving compound growth 30 entire years to just do its thing. They let their investments multiply, slowly at first and then exponentially faster as the decades roll by. The core truth is simple. A little money invested consistently, given enough time, becomes a lot. This system isn't just reserved for the ultra-wealthy. It's for anyone patient enough to just let the math work. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to ask yourself a very serious question. Are you going to spend the rest of your life strictly trading your limited, precious hours directly for paychecks? Or are you finally going to leverage time and let your money multiply for you?